Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Brown's Latest. I'm Dave Grendzynski, but you can call me Grizzer. A lot of people do. And this is where we get you caught up with some of the latest news and tidbits that are tied to our favorite team in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns. Thank you to everybody who has liked our previous episodes, to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much. And to all of you, get your comments down there in the viewer comment section. I really appreciate it. Hope you liked the fit change yesterday. Like the whole thing, I was hoping it would time out where I could use the helmet. I was going to wear the helmet and come out and be a knucklehead and try to wear the helmet for the whole show. So we'll save that. We'll do that. But it just, again, you got to read the room like Kevin Stefanski doesn't. I just felt like, there's too many people were upset about the way that game ended. And the way it was all handled, anything. So I said, all right, we'll save it. We'll go a little different route. We went with the hat instead. So hopefully you like the fit change. The orange quarter zip is back, rested, ready to go. And I think refreshed is the quarter zip as it stands. Now, coming up on today's show, the one thing Kevin Stefanski could have done on his Zoom call with the media that might have cooled off the hot seat he is currently sitting on. Speaking of that hot seat, it's time for owner Jimmy Haslam to come out of hiding. Now that we know we have our franchise quarterback, let's start to go down the road to getting him some help. And in the viewer comments, a message for all of those haters who keep saying, oh, it was just the Titans. Yeah, woo, why? We got a message for them. Down there in the viewer comments, we will find out. But first of all, we got to talk about hot seats. Kevin Stefanski, never been hotter. And I just, he comes out in the Zoom meeting and with the media, and says, oh, Shedeur's going to be the starter the rest of the season. Oh, shocker. Really? Thanks, Kevin. And then he's asked, do you think it was a mistake not starting Shedeur much sooner than what you did? And he wouldn't answer it. But I was having a discussion with Soda Pop Dave, and Soda Pop Dave and I got onto the topic of this is the way Kevin Stefanski could have potentially won back some of the crowd, or at least maybe cooled off the hot seat a little bit in that Zoom call with the media. What he should have done is come out full-fledged, wrap his arms around the whole Shedeur thing and say, man, thank God we got our guy. We got our guy going forward. This is what we're building around now. We're going to get him some help. We're just lean into the whole thing. Buy in, Kevin. But instead, it's still that the Stefansers, the monotone, yeah, he's doing better. And, he did some nicer things and, improves every week, and his work ethic is great. It's all the canned corporate answers that we always get. But it would have been lovely to see him stand up, yell it to the mountains like Anchorman. We're going to have a family wedding, and you're not invited. We're going to comb the countryside with our family band. Didn't do it. Had a golden opportunity to cool his hot seat. But the way he handles it, it just makes it look as if he's bitter that it's not Dillon Gabriel. And the analogy that Soda Pop Dave used, and I thought it was a good one. He said, it's like Barry and Stefanski went mining for gold. And they agreed, we're going to split whatever we find. We're splitting the whole thing, but 50-50, no matter what. Whoever finds whatever. And Barry found the gold. Stefanski didn't. And instead of being happy that Barry's rich, Stefanski's pouting because he's the one who didn't find the gold. And I thought that was brilliant, Soda Pop Dave. And so I told him, I said, I'm going to talk about that because I was planning to go down the Stefanski road today. And I was waiting to see how he handled that Zoom call, and I thought he missed a golden opportunity to lean into the whole Shedeur thing and say, listen, we are going full-fledged, going to try and win these last 4 games with our guy who I think is our future. Let's go. Ding, ding. Rocky reference. Didn't do it. Didn't do it. And now the other thing that hasn't happened yet, and I don't understand why, is Jimmy Haslam still in hiding. Jimmy Haslam owes it to the fan base to come out and explain how Kevin Stefanski and Bubbba Ventrone both still have their jobs. I mean, it's a legitimate question. And he's the only one that can answer it. And I want to go back to the quote when he was asked about the Shedeur draft pick, drafting Shedeur back in the summertime. And I want to talk about this quote because this quote comes up occasionally in the comments. But here's the thing. Here's the difference between what he said about drafting Shedeur and where we're at now with the coaches. Let's go back to the quote. He was asked about Shedeur. And remember, he said, the first thing out of his mouth was, when did we draft him? We drafted him on Saturday, right? And they're like, yeah, we drafted him on Saturday. And he's like, oh, yeah. He goes, well, if you'd have told me Friday night when I was driving home that we were going to pick Shedeur, I would have said that's not going to happen. But we had a conversation early that morning, and we had a conversation later that day. And I think we had the right people involved in that conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew Berry made the call to pick Shedeur. Now, everybody takes that as Haslam didn't want Shedeur. But here's what I'll say. I take it as I left the decision to the football guy. And when he said we had the right people in on the conversation, this goes back to the whole icing out Di Podesta. Remember, we're kicking that theory around last week, thanks to a viewer comment. But if they iced out Di Podesta from this draft, and the right people on the conversation were Berry and Stefansky, and Haslam says, okay, if you're thinking about getting them, go ahead and get them. Now, the problem with Jimmy Haslam is the reason he only comes out once or twice a year is because he says things and you're like, he needs media training is what he needs, because he does not articulate what he's trying to say. And I think that was the biggest hang up with what he was saying. I don't think he was saying that he didn't want him. I think what he's saying is, I left the decision to the football guys, and I was on board. I was involved in the conversations that happened before the pick, but I trusted the football guy, Berry, to make the pick. But again, they can help us all out if they would just tell us what's going on and quit talking in circles. But the thing, and that's neither here, and it doesn't matter. We got Shedeur. He's our franchise quarterback. I don't care who picked him, whatever. I do care who picked Dylan Gabriel, though, because that's a complete mess. But here's what Haslam needs to do now, because he can deflect draft picks to Andrew Berry, but he can't deflect the coach and the guy the coach hires. That is Haslam's department. And there are so many people, not just in Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, in Ohio, and on the planet, that don't understand how Kevin Stefanski holds on to his job. He doesn't win any games. He's in charge of an offense that is absolutely brutal. He finally gets a franchise quarterback in the building and won't play him. Why, Jimmy, is he still working? And so Jimmy Haslam needs to come out of hiding. He needs to come out and answer these questions about Kevin Stefanski. We need to see him. And he should have been out, if not yesterday, today, on the off day. And so Jimmy needs to show himself. But the fact that he was so detached from the draft, because he was like, wait, when did we draft him again? Oh, yeah, Saturday. Somebody had to tell him, remind him that we drafted him on Saturday. He couldn't even remember, because he was just not that involved because he's letting the football guys do it. And I really think that the theory about DePodesta being told to sit in the corner, you sit this draft out, is the reason why we hit on all these picks. Andrew Berry was finally allowed to do what he did instead of taking baseball analytics and applying them to football players. You see what happens when you actually, you got a football guy picking football players. Now, Haslam needs to talk about why Kevin Stefanski still has a job. Now, Andrew Berry, home run after home run after home run after home run. I mean, it would look like a softball game with these draft picks for Andrew Berry this year. And so, because they're all hitting, and even some of the undrafted ones, with Larvidan. I know I rip on Larvidan about punt return, but he's not a punt returner. I rip on Stefanski and Ventrone for sticking him back there. He's a kick returner. He's not a punt returner. But I digress. So now we have our franchise quarterback. So now it's time to start thinking about, okay, what's it going to take to get him some help? We'll start here. These are the notable free agents. This isn't all of them, but this is where some of this money is going to start freeing up. You see Cam Robinson, he'll be gone. But look this is the whole offensive line, especially with Pochik now with the Achilles. He's done for the year. He's having surgery, so there's no way he's coming back next year. There wasn't any way he was coming back even before the injury. But Teller, when he's got his calf, he's not coming back. Devin Bush is a guy but he's going to cost you more than $9 million because he had that pick on Sunday. He is having a career year, is Devin Bush. So whether the Browns are going to want to pony up, that's going to be a discussion to be had. But right now, the Browns are projected for just under $7 million of cap space in 2026. They have 41 contracts on the book. 7 of those are void caps that will convert to dead cap without a preceding extension. I don't like getting in all this number stuff. Let's just stick with $7 million under. But here's the thing. They will get the money back from the Deshaun Watson. It's going to be somewhere in the area of like $40 million they're going to get back here as long as he doesn't play. That's why he is not going to play. So that cap space is going to get even bigger. The way they work these contracts, and then you get the insurance money from the Watson deal. And then the Browns have 11 draft picks coming up in April, including the 2 first-rounders, one of them being Jacksonville. They have 3 fifth-rounders. Right now, our pick is 3rd, where it sits right now, after who won and lost over the weekend. And so, do I want it to be the 3rd pick? No. I want us to get Carnell Tate. So, will he go that high? Probably not. So, could you somehow, I guess best case scenario, you get a stud left tackle with your first pick, wherever that ends up, 3rd, 4th, 5th, wherever that ends up, and then you swing around with the Jacksonville pick. Hopefully, you can get Carnell Tate still. That would be nice if that could happen. But I don't know. There's a lot to talk about. But having the cap space, we're going to be able to. And here's the other thing with Shedeur now. You're going to have guys who want to come here and play. So I think it's going to be a little easier. You're not going to have to overpay people like we've had to for all of these years. It's going to be a lot easier getting free agents to come here and want to play with Shedeur. Not just to play with Shedeur, but because of the publicity that he brings and everything else that comes along with it. And so I think it's going to be a lot easier to get this team together for Shedeur next year. But it'll start immediately after that Bengals game. Now that we're out of the playoffs, like this is I hate to look forward too much because we got to get through these 4 games with Shedeur, but we've got to get him some help. He's doing this with no help, with a makeshift offensive line. You can't say anything. You can't say enough about Shedeur, man. You just can't. You just got to get him some help, though. Got to get him some help. Now, what never needs help are the viewer comments. And, oh, my goodness, there's so many good ones. And so we're going to start, though, with one from TikTok. I've been doing these TikTok live things every once in a while, sometimes after a game. But there's no name attached to this handle. It's a password. It's user 914605111. It's a bunch of numbers. But I thought it's a good take. So swear, I love how you all ride for that team. Well, we're Browns fans. What do you want? But the Browns organization, literally textbook operational insanity. And I thought, well, not only is Operational Insanity a great band name, but it perfectly describes what we've been dealing with this season. 100% Operational Insanity. So whoever that was on TikTok that threw that in there, that cracked me up. I was like, yeah. I'm like, but I do. If I was going to start a band, I might go with Operational Insanity. That's a great band name. We'll go next to Fox Life 9366, who says, I'm a 63-year-old retired police officer, and I can still remember being told in the academy in 1983 about your instincts. If you don't develop them and be able to feel your way through a situation, you miss the truth, and your safety is in jeopardy. This is just life. That's what's on paper. There's what's on paper, and then there is how things flow. Sports is about flow as well as preparation. And he's talking about what we talked about yesterday with Stefansky, not being able to read the room or feel the flow of a game, and to not feel. And he was asked about it. He doesn't answer anything. Wouldn't talk about it. But they're like, you got Shedeur slicing and dicing his defense, man. Like, why take him off the field? It's like a guy throwing a no-hitter and you take him out. That just never happens. You don't do that. But he's right. You got to trust your instincts. Got to trust your stuff. Trust your gut. Like I said, we talked about it the other day. Trust your stuff. Shedeur was the stuff. But again, talks out of both sides of his mouth. We trust our guys. We're going to take Shedeur off the field because the game's on the line. Just ridiculous. But Fox Life, thank you, first of all, for your service. And thank you for throwing that in there. That was a great take. I appreciate it. Foosh Nick, 8625. People who dismiss Shedeur's performance, now this is what we teased at the top. People who dismiss Shedeur's performance as it was just the Titans and they're terrible act like everyone has amazing games against bad teams. That's just not the case. And that's absolutely right. Talk to Tampa Bay, right? The NFL is any given Sunday. If it was that easy, we would all be rich because we would just be betting the good teams to beat the holy hell out of the bad teams, and we would all just collect. We'd all be at the window on Sunday afternoon getting our money. None of us would work. We would just bet on football, on the NFL, if it were that easy. And Fushnik, you are so right. Any given Sunday in the NFL. And like I said, we go out there, we get a 3-point lead on Tennessee. We're acting like we're up 45. Again, Kevin Stefansky, trying to nurse a 3-point lead. You're going to nurse a 3-point lead for the whole half? It just doesn't make any sense. But you're right. The people who are saying that, Fushnik, are just haters. And that's all they got. They got nothing else to go to. That's all they have. So there you go. How about Kansas City? At home, Houston. Lost. I mean, Houston's 500 team. The mighty Kansas City Chiefs losing to Houston at home on Sunday night. Yusuf Del Rio, 2728. Grizzer, why do you think the stadium is not sold out? I saw a lot of empty seats. Now, I was about to answer this question for him in the comments when I looked down and Michael B said it perfectly. So this is one of our double viewer comments where Yusuf wants to know why there were empty seats, and Michael B comes swinging in and says, because people are not willing to go sit in the cold weather when they don't believe in the Browns head coach. People don't support teams that don't act like they want to win, no matter how cheap the tickets are. Fans go to see certain players play, but they also want to see their teams win. Fans are not going to waste their time if they don't believe in the team, organization, and know the organization isn't listening to them. And that is a fact. You can put a stamp on that. So Yusuf, that's it, man. Like this is a diehard Browns fan base. But here's the thing: what we've been watching and how Shedeur was. How do you miss on this? How do you miss on Shedeur? How do you think Dylan Gabriel is? So there is no trust. And again, this is why Stefanski had a chance in that Zoom meeting to try and win some of these people back. If he'd have just threw his arms around Shedeur and said, "Oh my God, thank God, we struck gold. We got it. We're finally set." It's insane how far he's come in just 3.5 games. And boy, oh boy, we had a swing and a miss on Deshaun Watson. Well, I had a swing and a miss too. Something. But no, doesn't do it. And that's why nobody trusts him. Nobody trusts him. And if you don't have trust, you don't have anything. Even with your pro football team, with your spouse, with your partner, and your pro football team. You got to have trust. Michael B. Great question, Yusuf. Michael B. Way to swing in there and help me out. I appreciate it. Mark-I3P2E says, Dave, I agree. Even from a psychological standpoint, just going back and knowing you're only 7 points down as compared to 8 would make a big difference. I don't think Stefanski is a bad guy, but he's been in way over his head with this team for a couple of years now. Time to make a change. And that's it. He's a family guy. Like I told you, I met him at camp a couple years ago. He was awesome with the kids. My nephew was with us. This is not about Kevin Stefanski, the person. This is 100% about Kevin Stefanski, the football coach, and the decisions that are made and the decisions that aren't made. That's what this is about. And Mark's talking about, remember I said, I'm like, this isn't, you're clinging on to, percentage points of a chance to still make the playoffs. You got to get to overtime. You can't be thinking kick the extra point, get it to 7, and then down the field. Now, if you want to go for 2 and you're like, listen, we're going for the win, we're going after it, whatever. Now, I would still disagree with it. I would say go to play for overtime. But he could have used the excuse, well, Denzel was out, we lost our center, we lost this guy, everybody, we got guys dropping like flies, the whole team has been compromised. We didn't want to get to overtime. We wanted to end it there. People might buy into that. But going for 2, when you could cut it to 7, no one's buying into that. Now, those were the first questions out of the gate in that media briefing yesterday. Let's go back to the 2-point conversions, because that was, we thought punting from the Raiders' 29-yard line was the most idiotic thing we've seen. But every week you seem to top it, because after that you had Fannin running quarterback sneaks. He's a tight end, by the way. He's not a quarterback. Did you know that? And now this week you're doing the Benny Hill show with the 2-point conversion. It's every single week something else. But the great point, Mark. Appreciate it. D so nice. I like it. D so nice says the fact that he made it to Monday with his job lets you know he was assured he's safe no matter what. And this is why I say Haslam needs to come out of hiding. He has some explaining to do, because there have been a lot more NFL coaches who've been fired for a lot less than what we've been watching this year. And there is no way that we can go forward with Kevin Stefanski after this year. There's just no way. Nobody wants this. He is the new Deshaun Watson. Nobody wants this going forward. Bubbba Ventrone too. Nobody wants it. Browns fans don't want it. And that's why you see those empty seats, because he cannot be trusted. And we will end today with @JDZ72. And this was classic. This is one of the most classic viewer comments we've had. JDZ72 says, Grizzer, that's me, Grizzer keeps referencing all these 80s songs. Well, here's one. When your coach's brain is lame and he blew another game, don't worry. Boop, doop, 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 be happy. Brilliant. That was great, JDZ. But you know what? we can't worry. We can't don't worry and be happy about that because that's all we do is worry and we're sad because Kevin Stefanski and his decisions and the special teams just keep screwing up every week. It's hard to. You can't be happy about that. I know it's hard. It's very hard. But that was great. When your coach's brain is lame and he blew another game, don't worry. Be happy. That was great. Classic. I love it. Thank you so much, JDZ. All right. Thanks for joining us today on the show. All right. The Bears are. The Bears. Remember that? Saturday Night Live. This week, this is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good test for Shedeur. Eric, man, it's going to be fun to watch. Soldier Field. Ooh. Probably going to be cold, too. All right. That'll do it. Go Browns! We'll see you next time.